So you talked about we talked about like how it debuted in '91. It came bundled with the Sega. So
Uh-huh.
any system they sold, here's a game for you, and they sold like 15 million copies or
Hmm.
of Sonic in that first year, and just it being faster. I'm going again. I love a good platformer, and it's the fact that I can go really fast from just left to the right of the screen with nothing in between until you get deeper into the game. Obviously, but that was appealing to me. It was just super easy to play, super fun to play. Um, and then since we're on video games, let's just go a little bit. I'll give a bit of a timeline, and we can sort of jump back and chop those up. Because I feel like your 1991 Sonic story is a lot of people's origin stories, and it doesn't involve Nintendo, like or it involved like we don't. You play Mortal Kombat on Nintendo, the blood's green. We're red over here on Sega. We got
Yeah,
real blood.
the Sega Genesis, which helped, which also amplified the Sonic, is because when you left Mario on the screen, he just stood there. Sonic
Oh yeah.
looked at you like, "Dude, we going? We going?" And I was
He
like,
was so 90s, right? Like
"Yeah."
he
And
was
I
the
was
90s
tapping his
culture.
foot,
Like
and
just
in
looking
Sonic
at his
CD,
foot.
in Sonic CD, he just straight up leaves you.
Oh, does he? I didn't
If
know
you
that.
if you leave the game in Sonic CD, if you leave it, you don't pause it. If you just let him just sit there and looking at his watch, tapping his foot, and everything like that, after 3 minutes, he literally goes, "I'm out of here," jumps off the screen, and then game
Oh.
over. No, dude, and I'm just like, "Oh, he's a dick."
Oh, that's so
That's
good
great.
though. That's so good though, right? So so 91, the first one drops in. We get Sonic 2 like right after it, the next year.
Uh-huh.
Just back to back. Sonic CD then came in 93, and then we get Sonic
Which I
3
did
and
not
Sonic and
play.
Knuckles. I didn't
I
either.
did not play in 1993 because I did not have a CD or a Saturn.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting those games when they were ported over to PC, the Sega PC thing,
Hmm.
their little games. So when I finally played Sonic R and Sonic CD, that was pretty much the same time.
Yeah.
So
And
that
let
when they were ported over to PC.
and let's not forget, what was it? The Sonic and Knuckles game with the top flap on
The
it.
lock on technology, yeah.
So you can put in what Sonic 3, right? And
uh,
roll with Knuckles. That
as
blew
in
my
the
mind.
best Sonic game ever.
Okay, that was going to be one of my questions following this. So let me go through this list real quick. So again, Sonic's had an all-time high. Early 90s, he's
Mhm.
destroying it. Then we get around to 98, we get the Dreamcast, a console before its time. Let's just say that. And
100%, 100%. Sadly,
yeah,
100%.
Sonic Adventure comes out 1998, 2.5 million copies. Then they followed up, 2001 with Sonic Adventure. We get the introduction of Shadow in that one. Again, you know,
Mhm.
very, very Flash sort of storylines there. You got Reverse Flash, you
Mhm.
got Flash, Sonic, Shadow. Then we just have some games that Sonic '06 was not very beloved. We won't talk about that much. It's all about putting up the fandom. Like we're putting the fandom on a pedestal at this moment. And and then,
I think
and
that was
then
a necessary. I think that was a necessary trial by fire to get through that stuff, though.
I
So I think
think
that also
so.
definitely helped with the fandom because I feel like the people that like pushed through that and were still Sonic fans past that time period. I'm like,
Yeah. Well, and then we jump forward to like 2011 or so. We get Sonic Generations. They sort of go back to the sort of vintage, well, not vintage, back to the beginning sort of thing, right?
mhm.
Where we're gonna leave the 3D for a little while until now. We got Frontier. I haven't played that one yet, but Sonic Mania was in there, which was amazing. I loved that game.
Mhm.
But it's just back to the roots of what Sonic was. So I think you've already answered this question. Like, what was that favorite game of it? Why was Sonic 3 or Sonic and Knuckles, however you stacked them, why were why was that your favorite of that series, at least of ever, I guess?
Everything. It was music. It was level design. It was honestly it's story. It was like one of the first ones that had like a story. Like sure, the other ones had a story. It's like you're running through, you're busting up robots and everything like that. And it wasn't Like Sonic 2 had a little bit more. It was just like, oh, there's like a big bad at the end, but it was like still like Sonic 1. Sonic
Yeah.
3 had story. Sonic 3 had cutscenes, so to speak.
I mean, yeah.
It had a save state, which was, I'll tell you that sucked. Having to literally play through and then just being like, turn off, lose power, whatever it was. There went your save file for Sonic 1. There went your save file for Sonic 2.
Like, we ran up so many light bills. We ran up so many light bills just keeping the TV on.
And but more importantly, it was the introduction of the greatest Sonic we've never seen since then, which was Hypersonic.
Okay.
We've never seen it since. We've never seen it in comics, movies, TV shows.
It sort of stands alone,
in any of the games. It is just a standalone, awesome, just in its own little corner.
But yeah, and I just remember, for me, I love 3. I love Sonic and Knuckles. I love those levels because the game got faster. Every version of it from 1, 2, and 3 got just insanely faster. But Sonic 2, for some reason, it holds a very, like, that cover. When I think Sonic video games, that's that cover, that Sonic with the 2 and Robotnik.
That's why they did it for the movie.
So, exactly, right? And that's the one that comes to mind. And it's, when I say why I like it, it always goes back to that bonus stage, man. I love that bonus stage.
Fight.
Yeah,
fight.
It's so fun.
Did you bring Tails with you?
Sometimes, but he could pick up extra rings though, couldn't he?
Yes, but he always got hit by bombs, which is why I just took Tails out at one point because I was like, dude, you go stand over there. I'm gonna go get it, and then I'm gonna come back, and then you.
What's so funny about it that they gave you a sidekick in Tails, and you could use him or leave him or whatever, but you want to talk about, like, again, a game before its time, really. If we could have utilized Tails a little bit easier, but let's be honest, we only had 3 buttons. We had A, B, C, and that was it on the Sega controller. So there wasn't much we could free up for Tails. Like, hey, we're gonna press flight, and we're gonna go through here. I'm gonna hang on to you. He just died a lot. Like, that's just like a running joke, really. Like, you're running, and you stop quickly, and he keeps running right off the cliff or something. So he stayed at home mostly when I played with him. But Sonic 2 was always my favorite. And then to get to Sonic Frontier at this point now, like, this is a 20 or 30 year run, 32 year run from video games, right? Only probably second to Mario at this point of having like that longevity of a character.
Pretty much. I mean, other than like the OGs like Pac-Man and whatnot.
But you don't see them around with like Netflix shows, right? So or movies, right? But those games, I'm anxious to play Frontier because it's supposed to be like open world, and I don't know if you've played it yet.
It's so good.
Is it really good? Okay? It's been getting really good reviews. So good. I just haven't had a chance to throw it in to the rotation because I finally got a PS5.
Now it's better.
When
it first came out, it was very good. The Cyber Stage games where they were kind of that linear style generations, they were good. Not as good as the open world thing. But through their DLCs that they've had, they've adjusted some things, some quality of life style changes, some bugs, some changes. It's like almost, it's not necessarily it's a whole new game, but it feels so much more responsive, which was one of the problems. That he could be a little bit floaty, he could a little bit, now he's got weight to him, he's got there's momentum in the game. Like, there's just, you can control the momentum, so if you want to move forward and then like stop, you could stop on a dime, or you can move the momentum and then actually roll downhill. You can actually have momentum in it, which was such a weird quality of life that I don't think any of us even realized we wanted. And I was like, man, I can control this. This is amazing.
We're not at the mercy of just speed, really, I guess, right?
Yeah.
We can control it a little bit better. Okay, I'm gonna have to jump into that, but we'll move on.
Especially because you have a PS. You have
5
a
now,
PS5.
yeah.
So
Well, I
yeah,
finally got
that's
one
just,
this
you're gonna have
year,
a.
and I've been trying to catch up on things. So I got the Ragnarok PlayStation, so I went back and bought God of War, the one right before it, because I love those games. Those were amazing.
Oh yeah.
And I finished those two up, and then I wanted to always play the Spider-Man game, so I finished up the first one. I'm on Miles Morales, and it's like it's cinema, man. Like it's like
It's 100%. If you like the Spider-Man games, granted, I'm gonna get chastised for this because it's like, oh, how dare you? If you like the Spider-Man games, you'll like Frontiers. Is it
okay,
as like intuitive on that? No, but it's that open world freedom
the
style
feel too.
thing where it's like
Okay,
you could like swing around and it's like you could just run through forests, through fields, through just go wherever, and it's just a huge. It's like the memes. It's just like Breath of the Wild. It has
okay,
that,
that's what I.
but instead of just like finally giving a character that can run at the speed of sound, just an open field to just go wherever was
Yeah.
just so nice.
What was wild, I think I'll end up doing the same thing, just running around because the other night, my wife was on the phone with her sister, and I'm playing Spider-Man, and the majority of the time I'm just swinging around the city, and she says, like, "Are you just swinging around the city?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm just swinging around the city, just going around the city." But Sonic in video games was super revolutionary. It made the Sega Genesis the go-to system in those early 90s, at least for me. So with all that popularity, with all the copies, so obviously we're going to get like a Saturday morning cartoon, right? So we jump into TV. So a little weird time because I felt like I only watched one of these in the early 90s. So we had The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog that came out in 1993. Then you had Sonic the Hedgehog that came out between it came out in like 93 too and went to 94. I think it was like 2 seasons or so of that. Both voiced by the great Jaleel White. Uh, Thank him for being the voice of my Sonic growing up. We'll start at those two. Which one, Chris, do you, again, when you think of Sonic the Hedgehog cartoons, which one do you go to first? Or which one comes to mind?
Both, because they really are two different costumes.
They're so different.
One is a slapstick Bugs Bunny Looney Tunes style cartoon.
I didn't enjoy as much, but yeah.
And then the other one was honestly some of the best story that I've ever had in a.
Yes.
It's literally where they got the original, where the comics came from, and it was their initial. Like, I liked where they went with some of the stories in the comics. I liked where they went down those stories. I liked Sonic being a freedom fighter. I liked Eggman actually being evil.
Yes.
Legitimately, like, just dark, which is hilarious that he's voiced by the same character as Winnie the Pooh. So that's always funny to me. But just that incredibly evil, just like, you took over the world. You turned people into robots. You should not be slapstick. You should be evil.
He was an imposing figure. He was just, you felt it. You felt the evil come off of him. And I remember if you remember watching, I always took it back to like Inspector Gadget. As zany as that show was, Claw.
You had Claw.
Wasn't it Claw, right? He was always ominous, right? Like he was just, like you knew if he ever like went toe to toe with Inspector Gadget, Inspector Gadget's gonna get just torn limb from limb. But he never did it, I don't think. That's another story for another day. But
I don't think so. But having said, that is one of my cosplay lists, is to do an Inspector Gadget Sonic, because I want the tails rotors to come out of my hat, so that
yeah.
And then in my gloves have like multiple things, like a ring, an emerald, like a TV item thing, and then just like have multiple things that come out of my glove,
and everyone,
like
this is why
with different items on it.
Chris is Sonic the cosplayer. But think of that. That's a genius idea.
And you mentioned Jaleel White. It's the same thing as that I wanted to make a
go ahead.
Urkel. I wanted to make an Urkel Sonic.
That would be so perfect, and I would hope. I feel like people of our generation will fully embrace it and get it.
I'm hoping so.
Like the bowling shoes.
People are just gonna call me Nerd Sonic, and I'm like, well, that's the thing, is it's always got to be the head, the gloves, and the shoes.
Yes.
Everything else could be. So if it's a character that's mostly known by his shoes, I can't do it. If it's a
Oh,
character
that's right.
mostly
That's
known
right.
by their
Yeah.
face, it's so it has to be like a whole thing. Like I can't. Sonic the Cosplayer can't cosplay other animals because their face. Like I can't cosplay Rocket Raccoon because I not at the end of the day, the people are like, I don't know what you're supposed to look like.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm cosplay. So animals are usually off limits. Weirdly enough, because it makes sense because the whole animal is literally
Makes complete sense. Yeah.
So yeah.
But I want to see that cosplay with Jaleel White with Urkel. That would be great. But the 93, 94 one was the one I always watched. It was on like Saturday morning cartoons too. It was like on ABC, I think. And I just remember the animation looking way better than the first one. It was a seriousness to it, even though like I'm super young at that time. But this would have been around the time I think Batman the Animated Series was out too. So I gravitated to that too, or the start of it at least around 93, 94 probably.
I think it was the start of it because I think it was 95,
somewhere around there. I should know this because I mean I love the show and I got Kevin Conroy's autograph. So, but that just felt a little more interesting to me. I like the stories that went from week to week, so it made me want to It made me want to tune in every week to sort of see where the whole story goes. Then that wasn't his last cartoon. He had Underground in 99, Sonic X from 04 to 06, Sonic Boom. That's the one with him with a scarf around his neck, right? Like
and the sports tape. Yeah.
I didn't like that design at all. And then you get Sonic Prime that's on Netflix right now, which I've watched and it was surprisingly really good. That first season at least for it, because it's a little new take on like the Sonic story at least, adding in some other characters. But we talked about so I know I've asked like which one of those first ones, but through that whole series of like just Sonic and TV media, what was your favorite and sort of why?
I don't know because
they're all very different too.
They are vastly different, and because they came out at such time gaps, it's like the nostalgia in me likes the 90s cartoons. The teenager part of me likes Sonic X. The young adult part of me likes Sonic Boom, and then and then I'm just like, and then with Sonic Prime, and then with Sonic Boom, because I'm still in my 20s at that point. But during Sonic Boom and Sonic Prime, I'm still getting those kid feels too. Because I'm just like, man, this is just fun to watch. It's
exactly, and
fun,
and it's checking that box on nostalgia as well. Where like I'll watch the Netflix series one, and like something will happen or whatever. It's like, oh, that's a reference from that game. Or so they really did. It seems like since the movie, and that's what we'll go into next. They've started. I think the properties for Sonic have started to become better instead of just like putting things out for sake of it being Sonic. I think they're taking a lot of care to it, which jumps us into the movie part of it. Let's jump into that right now. For Sonic the Hedgehog movie, we all saw that trailer. We all heard Gangsta's Paradise. What was your thoughts as soon as that? Because this was been like one time where like the people behind Sonic and just the what was Paramount and everything, just it didn't seem like they got it at that point. So this is my first question, your initial reactions when you saw that trailer and that Sonic.
I understood what they were trying, because I know they were trying to make it like it's like we're trying to make it like a live action realistic thing.
Exactly.
Like he can't look too cartoony because it doesn't make any sense. And I was like, he's an anthropomorphic.
He's a blue
hedgehog. Who cares? Who cares? You put an anthropomorphic blue hedgehog in your movie, he's not going to look realistic. Stop. He's not Rocket Raccoon. Stop making him look like that.
Yeah.
To this day, ever since I watched that trailer, I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
Oh,
but I do have
like
I do have like 4 conspiracy theories in like my entire life. One of those conspiracy theories is that they did it on purpose.
Yes, Chris, I have it written in my notes.
They did it on purpose to literally drum up a bunch of hype. And I was like, you can't tell me, because they got the movie so right.
Yeah, I know, right?
For them, unless they literally fired everyone that did the other stuff and was like, don't ever touch anything ever again. The only reason they could have done that to get the other stuff, like Sonic the Hedgehog 2, not even necessarily 1, but Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is literally one of the most faithful video game adaptations I've ever seen. So for them to literally get this so right, and then just to have whatever that was at the beginning, I was like, there's literally only two options. Either you just straight fired everyone that was originally part of this and entirely hired a new thing, didn't tell anybody, or you straight up did this on purpose.
Okay. So Chris, I wrote that in my notes for it because I wanted, that was my conspiracy theory for this. Like I literally wrote rumor about Paramount releasing a bad model of Sonic on purpose so people would talk about the movie. Then within
because everybody talked about it.
Yeah, everybody.
It was on the Colbert Show. Everybody talked about
everybody.
it. Everybody. It wasn't just the fandom. It was everybody that talked about this. And I was like, that's a good way to generate hype. Not gonna lie.
So let me give some context too. So if people don't know, so that Sonic trailer dropped with a Sonic that, like Chris said, if a blue hedgehog existed in real life and was like a real sort of hedgehog animal, whatever you want to call him, this is how he would look.
They tried to go Rocket Raccoon.
Very like instead of white gloves, he had like white fur on his hands, right? So this trailer drops. This is not the Sonic that we thought that we were getting, and within like minutes of that video posting, Paramount, the whole studio just got blasted with like, what in the world is this? They're talking about his teeth. They're talking about like just the way he looks. Like it was just a cluster bomb. And then the director at the time, I think it may have been the director of the movie, or who was over it? Was it Tim Miller? I believe. Could have that wrong. We'll double check it. But no, it wasn't Tim Miller. Yeah,
it was Jeff Fowler who made the tweet
Jeff
being
Fowler,
like,
yeah.
We know, we see it, we screwed up.
So he apologized, right,
Thank
for
you.
it. And that sort of gave like the fans a voice. But Chris, I will to this day as well say they had this locked and ready to go right after all that, because no one was talking about a Sonic movie. Like we knew it was coming. Like if you were a fan, you knew it was on the way. But to put that bad model out and then say, okay, we're gonna put this together. And the stories is that like the VFX department worked overtime and stuff to get this hammered out, because they did move the date of the movie. Again, just fantastic cover up, right? It's moon landing sort of stuff. But anyway,
100%. There's no way to corroborate this unless I physically work for Paramount and work my way up the corporate ladder, where eventually I can get to that closed door meeting where I could just be like, all right, talk to me. What actually happened back in 2019?
It was so wild because remember that very first poster too, where it was like just the silhouette of what we sort of saw in that first trailer. Even that looked a little like funky. But then I don't know what came out next or after. They had like a promotional poster of
it was just
Chris
legs
Pratt.
On
that.
Yes.
But then they had one of Chris Pratt, right? Instead of Marston.
James Marston.
Instead of him. And I'm like, okay, this had to be the look that they were going for initially anyway. I'm not sure. I don't remember which one where that fell into like the line, but to have Chris Pratt as the sheriff or the donut lord, like it just seemed like too coincidental that they got it so right. And the movie was, like you said, was so right. And then the sequel was so right for them to start off so badly with that model. It makes me think like Tails couldn't have looked. Did you redesign Tails then too at the end of that movie?
Yeah, and it was just one of those things where they also, and the conspiracy theory also goes into that because of what they did with the Chipmunk movie, where they brought back Ugly Sonic to have his own thing at that.
Okay.
I was like, cool. So you know what you were doing. Don't lie to me.
Exactly, right? So again, more context. He's called Ugly Sonic. This is You can look it up. It's called Ugly
It's canon.
Sonic.
It's
It's
canon. It's
canon,
canon now.
exactly. It's Ugly Sonic, and then the Chipmunks, well, the Chippendale movie. He's at a convention. Ugly Sonic's at a convention. He's gotten fat. It was a hilarious cameo. I loved that part of that movie. That movie was really good too, surprisingly. But to jump off the conspiracy theory train, give me your sort of take, because we had the second one came out like what, about 2 years or so after, around 2022. Again, both of them made bank at the box office. Sonic 2 made about $400 million. That's really good for a video game movie too. So again, you listen to the fans, and change the design, and we'll come out and see it because we have some stake in it, right? So, but for you, and again, we get the second one and a third one in 2024, so next year. Just your overall thoughts on the Sonic movies, because video games historically have not been great. What, in your opinion, made these Sonic movies like great, essentially? Because I love both 1 and 2.
I don't know a lot about the writers before the Sonic the Hedgehog movies, so I'm not 100% sure as to where they got it from. But I will say that there are certain members of the higher part of this community, not necessarily the community as a whole, but like people that still are in this community as like maybe not official SEGA people, but just like they work for SEGA, but they're consultants, liaisons, contractors, whatever it is. One of them is Tyson Hess.
Okay.
And whatever he touches in this Sonic fandom is gold. He has straight up the Midas touch when it comes to this stuff. Don't know why, don't know what he does, what type of magical stuff he had. Every single thing he makes is a straight up masterpiece. And it's one of those things where there isn't a single thing he's made in the Sonic fandom that people have been like, ew, no. Everything he touches, and because of that, he did the I don't know if you can see him in there, but he did the comics up there. He's done the opening animations for Sonic Mania. He's done.
That's the okay. I knew that game. I knew that name
yes.
sounded familiar. Okay, gotcha.
And he was the consultant that Paramount brought in. Like when they remade the Sonic stuff, he was the consultant to literally bring in to do that. And granted, he is an artist, he's an animator, but he knows about Sonic. He knows about he can understand certain things. So that level of, you had basically an ace in the hole type thing. You had something in your pocket to be like, cool, how would this turn out for that? And I think that's one of the reasons why it helps the conspiracy theory, because I feel like they knew this all along, and they were just like going with us. Because like for that type of adaptation to get everything right, especially in 2, you get Knuckles, you get the plane, you get the Eggbobby, you get Supersonic, you get just so much stuff, just getting it right. And I'm like, yeah, you guys already knew how to do this. And it was just, and I also think it's one of those things where we had for decades of just bad video game adaptation movies. I think that's gotten under the skin of a lot of people. People have been like, yeah, we have to be able to do this right. Because one of the things that's also now is that we're noticing is that a lot of millennials are now making movies.
Well,
and before, when you had an older generation making video game adaptation movies, they didn't play video games. They know how to make movies, but they're like, cool. I don't know how to adapt Mortal Kombat. I've never played Mortal Kombat, and then we get those movies, and we're just like, oh.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's say next to this, and I've argued this with a good buddy of mine, and the Mario movie obviously has made a bazillion dollars and it was really good and entertaining, so fun. I don't think I've smiled from like ear to ear in a movie.
It was so good.
Ever.
It was so good. It was such a fun time.
but with that, even before that movie, I will fight him to this day to say like Sonic the Hedgehog is one of the best video game adaptations ever. Okay, again, it's adapted into live action too. So it's obviously different from Mario, right? Because Mario stayed in that world. It was like a Pixar sort of movie, right? But with absolutely. Sonic bringing him into like a live adaptation sort of movie, only that and Mortal Kombat 1 to me are on those levels as the greatest video game adaptations ever. This last Mortal Kombat we got, not for me. But it's like you said, the people who grew up with those properties are now making those properties. Just like as of this recording,
And I
like
think there's a. Mhm.
yeah, as of this recording, Seth Rogen has finally made Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He's actually made them teenagers now. So,
Oh, I'm so looking forward to that. I'm so looking forward to that. I saw that little clip where they were talking about how they were grocery shopping, and I was like, this is a. Granted,
yes,
I also did like those Michael Bay movies.
Again, the first one from the '90s will always be like the be all end all for that one. But as generations move on, and we can see this with Sonic too, it's people giving a little bit more love and care to those franchises than before, than just money grabs. You know, like now you have like a Seth Rogen coming out and making a Ninja Turtles movie. He's seen all the other ones before this, I'm sure of it, and he knows which ones that he likes, and he knows which ones he dislikes, and him being able to make those and watching the cartoons and stuff like that, similar to Sonic, we're getting people in now, or they're creators now who are taking that and saying like, okay, this is a Sonic I grew up with. Let's pick him up from '91. Let's drop him here in 2023 and have a fun time. You know, you don't have to readapt. You don't have to rebuild the wheel a lot of times. You know, especially with a character that has like 30 years of life within him. You know what I'm saying? Like a 30-year run is one hell of a run, man, for anything.
And you still got new stuff, which is honestly amazing. Which is I'm loving every second of it, because what's the phrase? We are eating good.
How dope was Idris Elba as Knuckles, man? Like he was.
Oh, as soon as you start, just everything, especially I loved him being just serious Knuckles. But just him letting loose, where he's just like, I'm having the fun, and then he like throws the bat, and he's just like very clearly has no idea what's going on planet Earth. Where like Robotnik is like yelling at the screen, and he's just like, oh, they're typing, and Knuckles is just in the background being like dot 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 dot. And it's just like, and it's just like Idris Elba is just having just so much fun doing it, and with the Knuckles series show that's supposed to be coming out at some point.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think it was slated for this year or this year or next.
It is this year.
This year, yeah.
It's supposed to be soon. They said they were done filming and done everything like that. We don't have a release date. We're just soon.
To sort of close us out. But anything else that you sort of want to say of like the Sonic fandom, the cosplay fandom? I sort of want to give you like this floor to say like, just why the hell you love Sonic so much, man? Like, why would we love it so much?
Just literally part of it. At this point, it's literally glued into my persona. Like, I have very large facial expressions when I talk sometimes, and that's literally because of people like Jim Carrey. Like, I have impatience issues. And like, I'm pretty sure that's due to Sonic and like my childhood. It's like it's ingrained. Part of my personality is ingrained with Sonic. So it's just not like it's like, oh, why am I a huge fan? Because I'm like, it's me. I don't even know. Like it's just like, oh, I'm a huge fan. Like I'm a huge fan of myself.
No, but I get what you're saying though.
Literally, like there's so much lore in here. There's so much information about Sonic the Hedgehog. Like it's like those funny memes where it's just like all of this, it's like basic information and then like Sonic information in your brain. And it's just like a whole thing.
I just wanted to just first say like, thanks for jumping on. Thanks for sharing your fandom. Thanks for being Sonic the cosplayer, because it all boils down to me like the love that fans have for certain properties or for certain characters or something like that. Like that's something, like you said earlier, is sort of like you are Sonic, and it's sort of like, and my wife and I had this discussion before. I don't like villain movies because heroes are supposed to be like the best version of us, and the people that we usually gravitate, like a Sonic, he's the best version of you and me. Like that's and as a kid growing up and you're watching that, you're like, okay, I want to pattern a little bit of myself after this character that has like so much heart, that you care so much about. And again, just thank you for sharing your fandom with it and putting the suits together. And I can't wait to see your next suits and all your other like Sonic themes, the things that you make. And you make all that stuff yourself, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So just from that point on. So yeah, we could probably go like another hour on this, but I'm gonna let Chris get out of here. And again, Chris, can't thank you enough for jumping on. And so this has been another episode of All Star Fandom. We covered a lot of Sonic material today. Be sure to follow All Star Fandom and All Star Fandom Show. Drop your fandoms in the comment section below. Maybe you'll be a guest on, or I'll reach out to you as well. But just from this episode alone, were you a Sonic fan? Like, how deep does that lore go for you? Like, obviously, Chris and I, 91 until now. So we've been down since 91.
From the beginning.
From the beginning, right? But drop down like best Sonic, favorite Sonic game, best characters, best villain, whatever Sonic fandom that you have. Feel free to drop in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff, all the social media stuff. Again, Chris, I can't thank you enough. Again, make sure you follow him, Sonic the Cosplay at Cosplayer everywhere. And until next time,
Sonic the Cosplayer at everything.
At everything, yeah, essentially. So until next time, again, thank you for watching. Thank you for taking time. Chris, thank you again. I'm going to thank you one more time. Until next time, peace.